So, game week 2 was another cruel blow in the race to become FPL's world champion, and with injuries and suspensions ravaging our teams, the question now is whether to play the wildcard to attack those ahead of us, or to stay calm and stick to our original plans. And it's a choice which could define our seasons even at this early stage, but can we trust our judgment with this call, or will we end up right where we are now in another month's time? After all, to even be considering using FPL's most powerful trip in game week 3 is indicative of our choices being flawed so far, and if we got those so wrong just a fortnight ago, who is to say we'll get them right this time? Have we even learned enough from the opening 2 game weeks to justify the move, or is fear of repeating our original mistakes about to destroy our seasons before they've even begun? For me, it's easy to look at my team and see all the problems mounting up. I've got no points, I've got no players, I'm 9.9 million in the world and rock bottom of the Nightmare's Dreamers mini league. It is a desperate situation, and I don't want to spend too long on what's been and gone, especially given my 2 reaction videos already this week, but it has been such a disappointing start. On my game week 1 deadline stream, I switched from Vicario and now I'm 14 points down. I switched Gyökeres to Saka and I'm 4 points and a player down. I have Bowen instead of Brennan Johnson and I'm 13 points down there. I took out Cucurella to afford those players, brought in Maxim de Kuiper, and now I'm another 11 points down. I go with Palmer and Fernandes over Haaland or Salah and I've lost points, players and penalties there. And don't get me started on Anthony Gordon again. This has been my worst start to the game I have ever had, and I'm still quite shell-shocked as to how it's actually happened. But the important question right now isn't how do I feel about it, it's what do I intend to do to course correct through these stormy seas, to save my team from becoming shipwrecked and leaving me marooned on a desert island far away from the top 10k. And the obvious answer is to play my wild card. And I know a lot of you out there are in similar predicaments, perhaps not quite as bad as my own, but positions from which you feel it is time to play the most powerful trip in the game. So whether you're a Tommy template or an anarchist Andy, I have got just a draft for you. This is a draft I came up with if you want both Haaland and Salah, and I've got to be honest, I'm not really keen. It looks fine and there will probably be decent points there, but the midfield for me looks light and the defence is not the best. Milenkovic, he's a bit of a placeholder for the next 4 game weeks before an Arsenal defender comes in. Livramento is probably Newcastle's only nailed defender, and the other defenders could be whichever 4.5 million DEFCON monsters you like the most. Foster is in there as the only budget striker getting decent minutes. Maybe you can get Rodgers rather than Sarr, or you prefer a 4.5 million midfielder and Wood, Evan Nilsson or Mateta up front. There are options out there based on your style. The problem I have with this team, in whichever configuration you decide on, is getting the big names in means gambling on inconsistent attackers alongside them, and though they are explosive options, they do have quiet spells during which you will want to sell them, and it's harder to get to some more expensive options once the fixtures turn. Going with Haaland and Salah gives you a decent enough squad, but with 17 game weeks until the next wildcard, it just isn't good enough for me. But what happens if we get rid of Mo Salah? Suddenly it all opens out. By opting for Ekitike over Salah, now one of the 4.5 million defenders becomes Cucurella, a much easier switch to an Arsenal or Liverpool defender down the line. And downgrading Salah to Fernandes isn't much of a downgrade. After all, if Fernandes scored that penalty, he'd be ahead of Salah in the points right now, with Burnley next instead of Arsenal. 3 quality defenders with excellent DEFCON coverage, in-form attackers with easy outs when the form or fixtures switch. Again, you could tweak the names. Maybe you like Mbeumo over Fernandes, or you prefer a 4.5 million sub midfielder over grinders and you use that money elsewhere. But just by opting for only Haaland, you have a much stronger squad with far better balance and much easier avenues to the expensive players when they are back. But if you prefer Salah and value his long-term consistency and ability to get points from nowhere, then a simple switch from Haaland to Watkins and Fernandes to Salah gets the job done. You could even drop Milenkovic down to Ola Reina and get Gyökeres instead of Ekitike. There are some nice options there, covering a good spread of teams for a long time, though investing so much in attack does make it trickier to get to those midfield premiums when they do come back. This is a very solid draft though, one which should see you safe in the short to medium term. And given Saka and Palmer are injured and Man United are yet to get going, there's a very strong argument that now is not the right time in the season to gamble against both the two big guns. And through all this early season maelstrom, their dependable consistency as both assets and captains demands owning at least one of Haaland or Salah. And yet I just don't want to do it. And you may think that's crazy, and you may think I have taken leave of my senses, but I just don't see the value there even now, because it's about combinations, it's about the right balance, and I can't justify Haaland and a budget striker when I could have Ekitike and Gyökeres. I can't justify Salah and a budget striker when I can have Fernandes and Ekitike plus Cucurella over a 4.5 million defender. And I look at this squad with neither Haaland or Salah, and I could bench Gakpo and Ekitike and have them for that Burnley match in game week 4, and I still think that team could score 100 points. I could start Ekitike, bench Semenyo and Gakpo and go 4-3-3 and still feel confident of returns from all my backline. And all I'd need to do is roll one transfer in game weeks 4 or 5, then I could get Haaland in for any of those strikers in game week 6 for that Burnley game. That team has over £4 million in the bank and it looks phenomenal. It's not even got any Crystal Palace players for their game week 4 fixture swing. I look at that team and not only do I think Haaland and Salah are not essential, I actually think we are doing ourselves a disservice to rely on them so much. We can find better captains than them, and yes, I may not be the best example of that so far, but I did tell Trigger to captain Joao Pedro and he smashed them both. So when I think of activating my wildcard, it's not for the Haaland draft, it's not for the Salah draft, and it is most certainly not for the draft with both of them. It's for the draft that says this game has beaten me down so far, but I still believe in myself. The draft that says my gambles have not paid off yet, but the house does not always win. It's for the draft that says I believe you can be successful in this game playing it differently, and I will not let 2 bad game weeks shatter that belief. Because if I give up at the first sign of trouble, if I quit when it gets hard, then what was the point of even trying something different in the first place? So there you are, 4 drafts to consider to tweak to your satisfaction if you do play your wildcard. And I understand why so many people are considering playing the chip, and I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong to do so. You have to play the game your way, otherwise you will never enjoy it. And when I look at my team, I know it's a mess. I know there are missing players and out of form players, and all the players that I don't have are getting all the points. But I just don't think it's worth a wild card. I don't think it's even worth a hit. Now I know you're telling me it's stupid to go with this team, but if I replace Saka with someone, maybe Kudus or Brennan Johnson, maybe Amad Diallo, Cunha or Mbeumo, then I think that team looks fine. It's not great, nobody can deny that. The strikers have yet to get going, and Strand Larsen could even be on the move. Palmer is probably out, and I'd get Rodon off the bench, and he's not great. But maybe Leeds only concede 1 against a strikerless Newcastle, and Rodon gets DEFCON points. That's 3 points. Which midfielder can I sign who I can be sure would get 8 points to beat a 3-point Rodon? Cunha and Mbeumo have 0 returns so far. Kudos blanked last week. Johnson isn't yet reliable. Liverpool play Arsenal, so Gakpo is not ideal. It's harder than you think. It's the same with Matheus Nunes. If he doesn't play, then I get De Kuyper against Man City. But can De Kuyper get an assist? If so, a Nunes replacement would need at least 8 points to beat him with a hit. The one I really want is Chris Wood, because West Ham are conceding a lot. But if Bowen, with nearly 750 points over the last 4 seasons, if he can get a goal, then Wood needs multiple returns to justify that hit. And I do have double Forest defence, so let's face it, the likelihood of them conceding to West Ham is high. And look, the argument is that over several game weeks the hits should pay off. But if I can get through this one game week, then I have an international break to wildcarding. The transfer window will be closed. We'll know who is playing for who. We'll know if Ekitike is the main man or if he'll be playing second fiddle to Isak. We'll know if Newcastle have signed Strand Larsen, Wissa, both, or someone else entirely. We'll know if Watkins and Rodgers are still playing at Villa. We'll know for sure if the Matheus Nunes play is a dud. We'll know if Forest have Nuno's solidity or if they have moved for the chaos of Big Ange. We'll know who has survived the international break without injury. We'll be past that Liverpool and Arsenal game, which is a horrible fixture in a wildcard week. I can get Pedro Porro against West Ham rather than against Bournemouth. I can be all over that Crystal Palace fixture swing. If I commit to a game week 4 wildcard, then I can sign Cunha this week to play Burnley, and I can get rid for those Man City and Chelsea fixtures. If I wildcard in game week 3, then I can't justify a double Man United attack with those 2 games to come. And you know, if Alexander Isak does sign for Liverpool, I could even have 4 Liverpool players for that Burnley game. And yes, I will lose a bit of team value by waiting an extra week. I might even be down to 99.5 million by the deadline, who knows? But would I pay 0.5 million for the extra information ahead of a wildcard, for the better fixtures and the security of avoiding international injuries? I could make that value back in no time with the right players, so I do think it's worth it. Sometimes in FPL the risky play is captaining an ultra differential against the champions. Sometimes though the real big balls call is trusting your players after 2 weeks of underperformance. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do in this game is absolutely nothing, except of course replacing an injured player, but you know what I mean, you know where I'm coming from. Sometimes the best thing to do in this game is as little as possible, and it takes bravery to do that, and it takes courage to do that at a 9.9 million rank, but maybe that is what I need to do to turn my season around right now. So that's where I'm at. Eat the loss of the team value, go with the suboptimal team, and leave the wildcard at least 1 more game week. It's a big call, but it feels like the right one. However, I have thought I have made the right call so far this season, and I have been brutally wrong, and I have been punished severely. I now sit rock bottom of the Nightmares Dreamers mini league, and the pressure is mounting. I am 8 points behind Gladiator Glenn, 22 behind D-Unit and 23 behind Andy Martin, all of whom have big moves in mind for game week 3. Big Andy is 36 points clear, Praz is 39 ahead, and Fran, Veteran and Mate are 44 points out of reach, and that's just the bottom half. As we scroll up to the top, I can see Yelena is already 5 points clear of Az, Harry and Andy North in the top 10, level with my best man, Jockin Jeeves. 2 game weeks gone, 60 points off that top 10. I'm 67 behind my brother in 5th place with his hour before the deadline team. And then I see top spot, Ash from FPL Juice. He's put the afterburners on. He's triple captained Gyökeres and he is already 93 points away. He's almost lapped me. And yes, he's used 2 trips already, but Alf PL in second and Elite FPL Jason in third. They're over 70 points away with no trips used. I knew this mini league would be tough. I knew taking on the best of the best would be the challenge of a lifetime, even before I decided to start the game in extreme difficulty mode without the Norse Force and the Egyptian King. I just didn't realise quite how humbling an experience it would be. But it's still early in the season and I am still fighting. I still believe I can turn this around, and never mind winning this mini league, I still refuse to rule out becoming the FPL World Champion. It's going to take every bit of nous, skill, planning and emotional regulation I possess to get back in the mix, to hunt down this killer's row of champions ahead of me. But one by one I'm coming for them all. The fight back begins in game week 3 and I say to them all, watch out because I'm coming for you, and I'm not coming alone, because in my corner I have Jared Bowen, Emmanuel Agbadou and Joe Rodon, and if that doesn't scare you, maybe I should think again about this wildcard.